I want to know how long this ish is going to take. Delusional. I go to the bathroom, I get completely naked. I had fallen for the biggest scam in the world. I did it before it was cool. The skinniest I had ever been. So do I miss my smaller self? I feel crazy. And then I realized I had to do it. Welcome back to How to Be You, a podcast where I am brutally honest about how I figured out how to be myself and how I'm still figuring out that process. Today, we are talking about the eating disorder days. So if you have any past struggles with food or your body image, this might not be the episode for you. I'm not going to go into graphic detail, but I am going to be talking about that time in my life where I was very preoccupied by losing weight, trying to shrink myself, believing that skinnier meant healthier, and projecting a lot of those beliefs out onto the people around me. So if you're in for the ride, welcome. And if you're not, then I'm sending you love on your way. But I love personal growth work because that higher self version of us is always like, be comfortable with the journey, just love where you are now, be yourself and trust the process, and there's no end point, it's about the ride, right? If you're a perfectionist like me, that doesn't sit well with us. I want to know how long this ish is going to take. And that was a big question that I had in my eating disorder recovery, and a big question that I still get from a lot of clients and audience members today. And so I want to tell you about how long eating disorder recovery actually took. I'm going to give you a timeline of approximately the first year in that experience for me so that you can understand maybe where you are in your own journey. It's not going to take everybody the same amount of time because everyone's experiences are different, everyone's healing process is different, but I do think there's some core phases in the journey that can be really helpful to understand, and also just hearing someone else's story that's actually made it through and has eating disorder recovery so far in my rearview mirror that I genuinely almost never think about it. Like, I had to prep a lot to film this episode and go back to old photos and remember what life was like at that time. Being fully recovered, it's hard to even remember what it was like. And I know that's the goal for most of us. So that's really the perspective I want to share, is where I was then, what felt so consuming at the time, all the things I didn't know the answers to, and now I know a lot of the answers to them. And in the process, really making peace with what I look like and who I am. But if you asked me in the first 6 months to year of eating disorder recovery, how long eating disorder recovery takes, I would probably say 6 months to a year, because at that time, I was more recovered than I'd ever been, and I was significantly better than where I was when I started. But if you ask me now, it's now been 6 full years as of last month since I started eating disorder recovery. I would tell you it takes like 4, 5, 5.5, maybe 6 years, because it's a journey that's always changing. But let's go back to who I was at the beginning of this so that we can understand how I got to where I am today and all of the milestones I had to hit in order to be there. And who I am today is your body image coach, Sarah. I've been running my own body image coaching business with hundreds of clients over the last about 5 years. I'm also very active on social media as a body image and body neutrality advocate, and I've been doing this for a long time now. And I'm genuinely someone who feels so comfortable in my body, like so neutral towards my body. I walk around in low-rise pants and don't care if I'm not sucking in. I don't wear makeup on most days. You've got me in mascara right now, so lucky you. But I wear what I want and I look how I want and I show up messy, and I'm really, really comfortable with myself. And I think that's something everybody deserves. But let's rewind to about, I'm going to say fall of 2019. So I am 21 years old at the time. And this is me going into my senior year of college. So my first 3 years of college, from when I was 18, 19, 20, up until about 21, my whole personality was like being skinny, wanting to lose weight. I came into college just like very insecure. Boys didn't really like me in high school. I was always the taller, bigger girl who had boobs first, and was always so like uncomfortable in my body that I just wanted to shrink myself. So I came into college first time being away from home, first time being in charge of myself in terms of like exercise, food, if I go to my classes or not, full freedom, right? And very quickly over the course of a couple years, especially in the college environment where there's so many other insecure people who are young and don't know who they are either, I became the girl who was like the healthy fit friend. I became the girl who went to the gym twice a day and kept myself on a very, very restricted calorie limit and had a long list of foods I wasn't allowed to eat. I was obsessed with my step goal, my Fitbit, my Apple Watch, closing my rings, drinking enough water, drinking black coffee. I was perfect in terms of what health is in modern society today. Obsessed with my sleep schedule, obsessed with personal growth work, all of this stuff. But underneath that, I was miserable. And so I walked into semester 1, fall senior year of college, the skinniest I had ever been. And keep in mind, for the 3 years before that, the biggest girl in the friend group, always, and really insecure, and therefore just doing all the things young girls do, dating horrible men and taking the bar was underground as far as like how people treated me, like taking crap from everyone, perfectionist, people pleaser, you name it. I come into senior year of college, come back to school in South Carolina. I'm from Massachusetts, and so haven't seen anybody I go to school with all summer. Skinniest I've ever been. And I go to one of the first football games of the year in South Carolina because it's a big part of our college culture there. And I get approached by so many boys. I go to a frat party, the same frat that my college friends and I have hung out with for my entire college experience, the same guys in the same pledge class that I have known for 3 years now. And not one, not two, not three, at least 4, maybe 5, come up to me and reintroduce themselves to me as if they've never met me before. Like, hey, I'm John, nice to meet you, what's your name? And I'm like, we've partied together for years. What do you mean you're reintroducing yourself to me right now? I feel crazy. And then I realize that they're hitting on me. And I'm like, oh, it all clicks into place. I'm skinny now, and now you want me. And as someone who was in an eating disorder, but wouldn't have called it that, like couldn't admit it to herself, was obsessed with being skinny, believed that my body was the reason that I hadn't been getting attention from men, this should have been the moment that made me happy, that made everything fall into place, and oh my God, I finally did it, right? I was heartbroken. I was miserable. It wasn't until I went through that summer before senior year where I was severely in an eating disorder, restricting myself in the privacy of my own home. Nobody could stop me. Nobody was seeing what was going on. Coming back to school and having these men reintroduce themselves to me, that I was like, oh my God, I was me the entire time. They are finally talking to me like I am someone worth knowing, and it is only in this moment that I am realizing I have always been someone worth knowing. Underneath whatever I looked like on the outside, I was always funny, but now they laugh at my jokes. I was always beautiful in my heart and in my body, but now they compliment my curves. I was always smart and kind and all of the other things I love about myself, but they didn't care because I didn't look the way they wanted me to look. And my heart broke in this moment. And it was one of the first moments where I started to admit to myself, this isn't working. Yeah, the weight loss worked, but I'm not happy and I'm not confident like I was promised I would be. So fast forward through most of senior year, I am starting to have this reckoning, but not ready to admit it. March of 2020, we all know what happens. I'm a senior in college. I'm supposed to have 2 months left of school. I go on spring break to Miami. All of a sudden, a pandemic starts, but we're not calling it that yet. And so 1 week of spring break, I'm in Miami partying it up. And they're like, okay, you can take 2 weeks of spring break. And we're like, woo, extra week of spring break. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and see my family. Then I'll go back to school, right? The world will go on. Nobody knew what this was gonna be. I go home for a week, back to Massachusetts in March, freezing cold, not the college, warm South Carolina environment of like the gym open 24/7 and 12 fitness classes a day I can sign up for, and me being fully in charge of what I eat and how I sleep and how little I eat, really. Body checking, weighing myself constantly. I go back to my parents' house, and we know what happened. COVID starts. I never leave. For 3 years, I didn't leave my hometown. And I had never planned on my life going that way. I was always going to be the girl who moved out of the country after graduation. I already knew I was going to be doing my health coaching certification. I just thought I was going to be a weight loss coach. And long story short, I get pulled out of the environment where my eating disorder was thriving and where what was fueling my eating disorder, which was male attention and validation and a sense of control over my life, where all of those drivers evaporate. And so I'm back in my parents' house trying to maintain an eating disorder, insane behavior that nobody had checked. Nobody had been like, girl, not normal, not good. Back to my parents' house where that is no longer possible because the gym is closed and we're eating family dinners. And my mom notices if I'm weighing myself twice a day or having an absolute bitch fit because she bought potato chips and those are unhealthy and how dare you keep those in the house. Something else happens at this time, about 1 month into lockdown. I hit my goal weight. The number on the scale that I had lusted after for years had been my whole personality to get to this number for as long as I can remember. One morning, I go through my weighing myself routine. I go to the bathroom, I get completely naked so that the clothes aren't weighing me down, and then I step on the scale as empty inside and out as possible. And I look over my toes, and I see the number I have been lusting after for years, that I have told myself everything will click at that point, and I feel nothing. I remember vividly, I've told this story on podcasts so many times over the years. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I'm standing in my parents' bathroom, standing on the scale, and it's kind of like a split bathroom. So on one side, it's like the toilet, the sink, and the scale. On the other side, you have to go through a little archway, shower, and big full-length mirror. And I weigh myself, see the number, think, I feel horrible about myself. Then I step to the other side of the bathroom to check in the mirror if I'm still disgusting looking. Look in the mirror, my eyes automatically go to my stomach, and I'm like, yep, still disgusting. And then my next thought is, oh my God, I can't believe I also have to go make myself breakfast after this. Because at this point, every meal, every bite of food is exhausting because every bite of food is a calorie calculation. So I not only have hit the goal weight and it didn't work and I feel worse than ever because I'm so heartbroken, I still have to go do the mental math of keeping myself deprived, miserable, and shrunken after this. And that moment broke me. It's a moment I'm so grateful for, but it was so miserable. Because I realized that I had fallen for the biggest scam in the world, which is thinking that hitting my goal weight was going to make me love myself. And I actually did it. I was a weight loss success story. And I still hated myself. This moment, I crashed. I think something in me just broke and my body just exhaled in a way it hadn't been able to in so long, because again, it's lockdown, not allowed to leave the house. And something in me that wasn't willpower, that wasn't discipline, that wasn't even the eating disorder voice, it was deeper and stronger than that, was like, you can't do this anymore. And it wasn't a freeing feeling. It was a terrifying feeling. I tried to do my 2 times a day workouts. I tried to come up with new, interesting, extremely limited calorie counted meals. And something in me that was so heartbroken had just broken. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I crashed. And for weeks after that, I slept. And I barely got out of bed. And not in a depressive way, just in a way of, my body is so malnourished. my mind and my body are so exhausted. And so eating disorder recovery didn't feel like a choice. It felt like an inevitable. It felt like me collapsing into myself, and it was terrifying. It's something I've never regretted. It's a decision I would never change, but it didn't feel like a decision at the time because it wasn't my conscious mind doing it. It was my body. My body was breaking and crying for help. This also wasn't like a perfect transformation moment where all of the noise goes away and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm gonna love myself, and losing weight didn't work. Again, I'm against my will at this point, but I'm like, something has to work. I'm still obsessed with being healthy. Even if I've realized that weight loss isn't necessarily, or skinny isn't necessarily the definition of healthy, still obsessed with being healthy, mind you, still obsessed with my step goal, drinking enough water, my sleep schedule, like orthorexic to the max. And so I discover intuitive eating. I'm like, something needs to change. I follow a bunch of people on Instagram. On my little Instagram blog at the time, it has like, I don't know, a couple hundred people following it. And it's like me just talking about my life to mostly people that know me in real life. And I'm like, let me find self-love. Let me find a different relationship with food. I find intuitive eating. I follow a bunch of people who talk about intuitive eating. And for a few months, I fully believe that I can do intuitive eating and weight loss at the same time, which is like delusional now that I actually understand intuitive eating. But again, I wasn't ready to let go. And those periods in your recovery journey where you're trying to do two things at once, where you haven't fully let go of the past dream to be smaller, of the vision in your head of you skinny, of the habits that have kept you so restricted, but also given you some sense of purpose and control over your life, like we don't just let go of those overnight, and that's okay. But I was Delulu. And so I was fully like, I can calorie count intuitive eating, which is not how it works. Intuitive eating, if you're not familiar, is being intuitive about what you're eating. It is listening to your body to guide you for what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, when to start, when to stop, and allowing yourself to like take neutrality and even gratitude and happiness over food because of that. But when you have been so aggressively disconnected from your intuitive body for so long, because that's what eating disorders and dieting do, it's really hard to be intuitive. So I was like, can't imagine a world where I'm not constantly controlling every single thing that I do, including my food. But over time, I learned more about it. I'm someone who needs to like understand why things work the way they do. So I started reading books. I read Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. I still recommend this book to everybody. She's also got a great podcast. I started listening to Maintenance Phase, another great podcast. And then I started following all these amazing people on the internet. And I started learning more and more. And it wasn't an overnight shift. Like people want to talk about eating disorder recovery or like any life change, like it's an overnight shift. But really what it is tiny decisions every single day. Sometimes they're subconscious decisions. Sometimes they're conscious decisions of like, I'm not going to give up on myself. And so that takes time. And it is so uncomfortable when you're in it. It is so uncomfortable. It sucks. It sucks. Because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I feel all alone. What if I'm making the wrong decision? These are now things that I talk clients through every single day. But when you're in it, it is really hard to trust yourself. But it is not something that just clicks one day. It's small decisions that you make every single day. So if you have past troubled relationships with food, even if you wouldn't say that you've had an eating disorder in the past, I just want you to acknowledge that you've made so many of those little decisions. I ask so many of my clients, like, are you somewhere different than you were 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And a lot of times the answer is no at first. Like, no, but I've been stuck on loving my belly and accepting my arms and letting myself eat ice cream for years now. And I have to be like, that's not the question I asked. The question I asked is, are there tiny improvements that you have made over time? Because that's realistic growth. That's what eating disorder recovery was for me. And so for the first 6 months, it was a lot of just like learning that there's another way to think about food and my body, and intuitive eating was such a big part of that. And then another part of it was just sitting in a lot of that discomfort and slowly, tiny, tiny, tiny steps every day, making changes. But those changes really added up, and I am so incredibly grateful for that. I also have to acknowledge that throughout all of this, I am terrified that I'm gonna become so big that no one will ever love me again, that I will never stop gaining weight, because I'm gaining weight at this time. I gained about 60 pounds in maybe a year. I stopped weighing myself, but when I look at the photos now, that's what I would guess. I am terrified that I'm making the wrong decision, that I'm gonna die of heart disease, that every thought in my brain is trying to get me to not give up on the eating disorder, because the eating disorder is fighting to survive. So I am having every thought every day of like, you're doing the wrong decision. You're doing the wrong thing. You are making the wrong decision. It was terrifying. It was. But also, something deeper in me knew we can't go back to how we used to be. Even if you tried your hardest, girl, you're not going to be able to go back to this. So that is the only way forward. And a big question in my life comes up at this time, which is like, am I going to regret losing my smaller self? I'll come back to that. But at this time, I'm also sharing my whole experience on Instagram. So I am sharing extremely authentically for the first time pictures of me where I'm not sucking in, pictures of me from the side, words of saying like, I have an eating disorder. Instagram is the first place that I ever said I had an eating disorder. Not to my therapist, not to my mom, not to my best friend, to Instagram. And my content starts gaining traction. We didn't have the overnight blow up at this point. That comes next episode. But I slowly start actually making internet friends. Like I share about my intuitive eating journey and people find me through like hashtags or the algorithm. Because again, this is like baby Instagram at this time. No videos, everything's a square, TikTok doesn't exist. And then I'm commenting on other people's intuitive eating content or like self-love content being like, thank you so much for sharing this. This is my story. Because Instagram used to be a lot more social. And I start making friends who get it, who can actually talk about these things for the first time in my life. And I'm so seen. I didn't have anyone in my real life that I could talk about these things with without feeling, oh my God, like I was oversharing or just like so judged. And then it empowers me to share more and more. This is one of the reasons that in my work today, like I do online group programs, I do retreats, I do in-person workshops where it's always groups, because me making my first friends who got it, who I didn't have to over-explain myself to, that unlocks another level and another speed of healing. When you are trying to do all of this on your own, again, that voice of telling you that you're doing something wrong and you're never doing enough is so loud. But when you can help tune it out with support from other people, with other people who just have been there, it's the whole reason I became a coach. Whole reason I have an entire career out of this. Not because I saw a gap in the market and I could make a career, but because I felt like I had to help others the way that others had helped me. And so I am empowered to keep sharing and to keep going in this journey because of Instagram, because I'm sharing online, and in a little bit of a messed up way, I'm like, oh, I have to find something to share. So I need to go take more photos of my natural body because I need them for Instagram. It's crazy saying it, but hey, it worked. And I need to journal and be introspective about what I'm feeling because I need to be able to put it into an Instagram caption. Like, I'm not saying this is the way that we should heal. I should have probably gotten a therapist sooner, but this was my little version of therapy. And whether it's the right thing to do or not, it's the foundation of what we see here now. And having an outlet, people to talk to who understood, that expedited my recovery so much. And I will never regret that. At this time, about, let's say, 6 to 9 months into consciously choosing eating disorder recovery, actually, it was like 5 or 6 months now that I think about it, I start my health coaching certification, which I had planned on doing before graduation, before the pandemic, before everything. But when I signed up for it, I had told myself, like, I'm going to be a weight loss coach. That's what I'm going to help people do. Weight loss is the answer, all this stuff, fully delusional, right? I go into that program. It starts in October of 2020. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Not the program. I still want to coach people. I still want to get certified, but I can't do the whole teach people how to lose weight thing because I know that it's a frickin' scam. I know that it doesn't work. I could teach you right now how to lose weight. I'd be teaching you how to make yourself miserable and hate your body in the process. Sorry. That's just how it is. And so I go into that program being like, I have to find my own way. In those 6 months, I realized that almost every module is about health, but the undertone is always how to lose weight. And every single week, I'm submitting my assignments, doing my work, working with my classmates, being like, yeah, I don't believe in this. I've done this. It doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it doesn't work. And I have this idea of like, I'm going to be a coach, but I think I'm going to be a body image coach. And let me tell you, I did it before it was cool. I was the only person when I typed in body image coach on Instagram, like I was the only person that popped up. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm pretty great. I'm just saying, like when someone's like, I knew this song before it was on the radio, yeah, I'm gonna let my ego take that one. I did it before it was cool. But I had to do it. Like I didn't see another way. And this also empowered my recovery journey for me to find a sense of purpose in it to help others. Because it's one thing to help yourself. It's another thing to feel like the work that you're doing is actually meaningful for the rest of the world. And if you are in your recovery journey, you don't need to become a coach like me. You don't need to take the exact same steps. All I'm saying is it might help you to find other people in your life that you can talk about this with and other people in your life who will find benefit in what you have to say. Don't go preach to people who don't want to hear it, but we thrive in community and we thrive helping each other. And that's really what I found in this process was like, I have the opportunity to help so many people right now, so I need to take it. And so I walk out of that certification with my first clients, a mutual friend from college, and then a stranger from Instagram who actually went to my rival school. So I went to University of South Carolina, she went to Clemson, and that was how we started the conversation. Like she followed me on Instagram and I was like, hey girl, you went to Clemson, hope we can be friends. And she becomes a client. I signed my first 2 clients out of the spare bedroom of my ex-boyfriend's house where I lived at the time. And I'm like, I'm gonna help you with your body image. And that is the cherry on top of the first year of eating disorder recovery. I wasn't an eating disorder recovery coach. I wasn't walking them through that same journey. But me sharing that part of myself had become a whole sense of purpose and career for me. And to answer that question of like, do I miss my smaller body? To prepare for this episode, I went back in my camera roll. I have 75,000 photos and videos in my camera roll. My camera roll starts first day of college, 2016, so 10 years ago now. And I had to go back to 2019, 2020 to prepare for this episode. I'm looking at pictures, my entire camera roll, meal prepped foods, body checks, side-by-side comparisons, trying to see if I've lost weight or developed muscle mass or gotten rid of my belly. I have this horrible picture that I thought was so inspiring at the time of a vision board I made that was just like weight loss inspiration and a 7-day-a-week workout schedule. I hung this up in my bedroom. Why were my parents not like, this is not okay? My whole camera roll is like gray, black clothing, meals that I look at now and I'm like, that looks miserable. That's like what I would eat as a snack now. Meals I remember trying to convince myself delusionally that tasted good and were like so underwhelming because I didn't let myself use seasoning. God forbid food gives you joy. You must be doing something wrong. So do I miss my smaller self? I looked at a lot of pictures of her to prepare for this episode, and there would be lies if I said that like there wasn't a part of me that was like, oh, skinny. And I would never choose her over who I am now. Send her love, grateful that she got us here. I never want to be that girl again, because that girl, even though she was so afraid to let go of restriction and her eating disorder and being skinny, being the healthy, fit friend, that was her whole identity. And who I am now, because I sat in the discomfort of recovery and everything since, is a version of me that I never would have gotten to know if I didn't choose those small steps every single day. So in the beginning of this episode, I said that if you asked me at that time how long eating disorder recovery takes, I probably would have said 6 months to a year, because that's how long it took me to stop the behaviors that were the restriction, that were the obsession, that were the orthorexia, when I was all in on recovery. It took like 6 to 12 months. But the learning since has happened every single day. It can be intimidating that choosing recovery is choosing it for the rest of your life, or it can be the most beautiful, expansive thing that allows you to actually finally be yourself and get closer to being yourself, unedited, unfiltered, unrestricted, not who you think you're supposed to be or who others want you to be, but actually who you are. And I am so much more me because of it.